Hello, everyone. We're going to give it a few minutes just for everybody to trickle in. We're going to start at 11:03 just to give a few more minutes. I am currently sharing my screen, so make sure that you're able to see it. I will also record this session in case anybody would like to see it after today. All right, with that, I think we can go ahead and get started. So hello, everybody. Welcome to the How-To Clinic for Hardware Asset Management. My name is Annie Su, and I'm an IT Asset Management Solution Consultant here at ServiceNow. So a quick overview on the workshop. What you are seeing may contain privileged and confidential information, as well as our standard safe harbor notice for any forward-looking statements that might be made. What we're going to cover today is how to get started with your hardware asset management implementation and kind of a reminder of how it brings value to our organizations. We'll also go through key concepts and skills for using hardware asset management professional, as well as best practices and additional resources. I'm also able to send out the deck that you will be seeing today to anybody who would like it after this particular presentation, and it does have links to those resources that I will share. So with that being said, our agenda for today is to go over the goals of hardware asset management, how to activate your plugins, taking a look at how Hardware Asset Management Pro works, both within discussion on the slides, as well as within a current demo instance. And then finally, some next steps that you can follow. So before I jump in, just a couple notes of housekeeping. If you have any questions, feel free to bump them into the chat anytime they come up. I will check periodically to see if there are any questions. Also, if you need me to slow down or repeat anything, feel free to put it into the chat. Otherwise, if I don't catch your question in the moment, I will have time for questions at the end. And anything that I can't answer today, I can take as a follow-up item, and I will find the correct answer or resource and get back to you. So with that being said, let's go get into it. So hardware asset management goals, right? Kind of a reminder of what our hardware asset management challenges are. The struggle of manual hardware asset management is what our customers mostly see. I'm going to pause real quick and just shut the window so that there's less background noise. Give me one moment. Alrighty, hopefully that's better. So we see disconnected tools, manual processes, as well as increased cost and risk as a result, right? So any kind of tool gaps, especially for hardware asset management, as oftentimes the tools can reside, or the hardware asset management tool or process can reside out of the standard organizational processes. Tool gaps are filled by manual processes, so lots of Excel spreadsheets, lots of emails, phone calls, and so on. Any kind of increase in manual processes means an increased opportunity to human error from repetitive tasks and slow service to end users. And finally, increased cost and risk, right? Inaccurate received and installed inventory, avoidable purchases, unproven compliance with privacy and regulations. So why ServiceNow hardware asset management? ServiceNow hardware asset management as part of the platform connects the enterprise with a single platform, and then you're able to automate the IT lifecycle with workflows through hardware asset management, thus resulting in reducing cost and risk within your business. Some top use cases are for manual labor, where there's no time and bandwidth or resources to do physical inventory, finding expensive hardware that's not being used and taking it off of the books, lost or ghost assets with sensitive data on it. So keeping track of those assets, making sure that we're complying with all the privacy concerns, and then leveraging warranty info appropriately. Faulty equipment replacement that's not worth repair, knowing those life cycle dates, knowing when things are coming up at end of life, knowing if an asset is covered under warranty so you can use that warranty to the fullest extent. So what are some key performance indicators when we're implementing hardware asset management, right? How do we measure success? So whether it's for ourselves or for anybody who may be asking. So taking a look at cost savings, there can be a dollar amount tied to unused hardware purchases, or rather after HAM implementation, decreasing the amount of unused hardware purchases, as well as accurate quantity for better vendor pricing, right? Instead of going to the vendor multiple times every time we need a few laptops, if we know of the organization's need in advance, we can negotiate better pricing when we maybe order in larger quantities. In addition, there's inventory accuracy, right? So becoming more accurate with our inventory accurate stockroom audits, fulfilling external compliance more easily, including less time spent from our resources trying to comply with those external audits, as well as reducing the amount of lost and missing hardware. And then finally, increased productivity, right? So less time to fulfilling requests if it's coming from, right, our end users or the IT desk and so on, increasing the number of automated hardware deployments, so a lot of those manual and repetitive tasks, and then also increasing the number of automated software disposals. If you are interested in or currently using software asset management, right? Software asset management and hardware asset management can go hand in hand. So you know what laptop you have and what kind of software is on that particular laptop. So a quick overview of the end-to-end hardware asset management lifecycle from request all the way to retire, right? And the reason I like this slide is it kind of puts it more into the words of our what we might see every day. So for example, under fulfill, I only need to buy hardware if it's not in stock, and having that kind of visibility to drive those kinds of business decisions. So for those of you who are might be leveraging ITSM asset management and are now working on implementing hardware asset management, this shows some of the differences between the two and then the additional capabilities and solution that you get with hardware asset management. So base asset management, which you can see in the lower half of the triangle, you get access to a couple tables. Mostly everything is manual unless you've configured your own workflows within the platform. As part of your hardware asset management solution, you get the hardware asset dashboard, hardware normalization, as well as asset lifecycle automation workflows out of the box. Of course, true to ServiceNow platform's nature, right? You can take any of these out of the box workflows and configure it to best fit your particular business needs. Any questions? I'm going to check the chat real quick to see if there's anything. All right, I haven't seen anything come in. Continue on. So the first part is on activating plugins. So these are the core HAM plugins that you should activate at the very beginning of your implementation, right? So basically ServiceNow HAM Pro, and then as you activate one of them, it should come with most, if not all, of these other plugins that are just child plugins of the original one. I have also included in my deck just some quick steps on how to do it if you have not yet done it. But I will walk through the process just real quick right now, taking a look at the store. So let me share a different screen. All right, so hopefully you can all see I'm currently logged into the ServiceNow store. Here is where you would go and look for hardware asset management. And this is the one that you're looking for. So the hardware asset management plugin, which is published by ServiceNow. Yep. Looks like just give me one moment to sign in real quick. All right. Sorry about that. It must have timed itself out. Security, right? Go ahead and click into hardware asset management. And for me, right, it's already installed within my particular instance, but for you, go ahead and request the install. You would put in your instance name. You may or may not need to put in a reason for a request. And then from there, go ahead and place your request for installation. And of course, right, if you already own that particular subscription or the particular solution, then it'll get pushed out to your instance. Right. So I'm going to hop back over to the slide deck. And now we're going to go over hardware asset management, the solution within the platform. So a quick overview. I like to think about hardware asset management on the Now platform in 3 key pieces. The first piece is bringing in all of our hardware data, right? So whether that's coming from ServiceNow Discovery or procurement systems or vendors, spreadsheets, third-party inventory, any of those, if you're currently working off of Excel, right, those would be the spreadsheets that's bringing in that data. And oftentimes, as can happen with a lot of opportunities of manual work or human errors, right, naming conventions are not accurate. And if you can see in my MacBook example, right, there's 3 different naming conventions for the same Apple MacBook Pro 15-inch. What ServiceNow does is we go off of the model number, and then we take it over to step 2, where we normalize all our data. So step 1, we bring in all the data. Step 2, we clean up all that data. So the content service that is included as part of hardware asset management includes the content library, which is updated by ServiceNow continuously with up-to-date information from our publishers and manufacturers, as well as the research team to go out and research anything that's not currently in the content library. So based off of the model number, as you can see in the example, that is where we pull in information like manufacturer, product, device type, as well as lifecycle dates. So lifecycle dates enable us to better plan our business processes for currently and into the future. When we normalize off of the model number, we also standardize the naming convention. So where you see Apple MacBook Pro 15-inch, that name is now standard across those 3 particular MacBooks we started with, all because we're going off of the same model number. And that information isn't just something that ServiceNow provides on our own. We do pull it from all the manufacturers out there. So now that we've brought in the data and we've cleaned the data, we can now take action on it through our out-of-the-box workflows, right? So step 3 is all the actions that we take with our hardware assets, from acquiring, auditing, receiving, maintaining, and disposing. So taking a look at hardware normalization, and I did want to caveat, similar to how I bounced between the store page and the slides, I will be bouncing a bit between the deck to kind of set up some of the examples that we're going to see, as well as my instance where we'll see it in action. I do see one question. So it's for the HAM financial data, is it possible to limit the visibility? So the question is for hardware asset management financial data, is it possible to limit the visibility to specific roles only? And the answer is yes, you can do that. Hardware asset management, because it is part of ServiceNow, the platform, we are a role-based platform. So any kind of specific view, and let's go with the least access, right? Any kind of role, they should see exactly what they're supposed to see and nothing that they're not supposed to see. And you can definitely restrict views to the bare minimum, all the way to everything. Let's see if there's any other questions. Looks like we're okay. Okay, with that, we're going to hop into my instance and take a quick look at creating a hardware model. Oh, another question. It says, is it out of box or a customized role? I think for hardware asset management, I'll need to get back to you on that. I'm not sure if there is a hardware asset management role out of the box that specifically does not show financial data versus one that does. But yeah, I can take that question back. Right. Any other questions? I don't think so. So with that, let me bring us over to my instance. All right. So hopefully everybody can now see, or everybody should now be able to see my ServiceNow instance. Let me know in the chat if it's not showing up, but I'm going to continue on. So we're going to create a hardware model. Currently, I'm at the list view of all of my hardware models within my particular instance, and go ahead and hit new. And my internet is a little bit slow in the house that I'm in, so I do apologize for any kind of delays that might be occurring. So here we are at a new record for a particular piece of hardware. For my example today, I'm going to go ahead and enter a Lenovo ThinkPad T490 model categories, computer. And for useful life, I'm going to put 36 months. So useful life is what you determine is a recommended time for that particular asset model to remain in service. Once an asset has reached the end of its useful life, a flag on the asset record will be set for eligible for refresh. I'm just using 36 as my example. Yours in your organization, it might be 1 year, it might be 3 years, you know, whatever you choose. Right. So now that I've entered in this information, I'm going to go ahead and save my record. And if we hop over here, so one, we can see that the display name, which is something that I cannot edit to make sure that we are always following the same naming convention, right, has been filled for me. And as you can see, I'm currently the system administrator, meaning that I have almost all the permissions, save for very specific security ones. But even then, I still cannot edit this. Okay, I'm going to hop over to the normalization tab, and we can see that it's partially normalized. And why is that? It's because I don't have a model number, right? So now I'm going to go ahead and put in the model number, save it again. Now we can see it's been manually normalized as I went to put that in, and the display name has been updated, right? Lenovo ThinkPad T490, along with the model number specific to here, right? In addition, because we have that model number, we're able to pull in lifecycle dates from the manufacturer. The source is ServiceNow because it's coming from our content library, but the content library gets it over from Lenovo. So that's why the lifecycle type is publisher. And we're pulling general availability and end of support. Now, if your organization wants to add any kind of custom lifecycle phases that you might use that are outside of what the publisher uses, you're also able to create any of your own custom lifecycles and then have any of your dashboards or reports or workflows run based off of your particular configuration. So now taking a look at the product catalog tab, right? So product catalog can be where our end users go to request a piece of hardware. Right. I'm going to enter, Lenovo ThinkPad in the description. Go ahead and save it. And here you can see under related links, I can publish that to the hardware catalog. I'm going to publish it to the category of hardware. Right. So now if you can see in my upper left-hand corner, we're in hardware catalog, ThinkPad T490. For the price, I'm going to go ahead and put it's $1,500. And for the workflow, right, because we want to attach a workflow to this particular product, we're going to do standard hardware asset request. Over here under the general product information images, I'm going to go ahead and add a picture. I previously had staged something for us earlier. Okay, and as you can see, the picture has now appeared. And now I've saved it. So for example, if I were to click try it, I can see what it looks like in our product catalog, right? So ThinkPad T490, Lenovo ThinkPad, the image, as well as the price is available for everybody to order. So that kind of walks through, right, creating a hardware model, a little example of normalization, what that can look like, publishing a hardware model to the service catalog. Let me see if there's any questions. Right. Don't see anything with that. I'm going to continue on. So next we're going to be looking at bulk stock order, right? So it's a prescriptive flow for stock order to accurately source assets from your entire asset inventory, no matter where it lives. I'm not going to drain the rest of the slide, but as you can see, right, there's transferable stock, meaning something that we already own. There's vendor purchasing that can be done, as well as being able to leverage the mobile app to receive any kinds of assets. We do support both iOS as well as Android currently. I'm going to hop into the lab again. All right. So from here, we're going to hop into our service catalog. I'm going to add something called Asset Lifecycle, which you can see here. Add it right to the top. And now I can see a couple of workflows that are available to me, right? Hardware asset refresh order, hardware inventory stock order, loaner asset request, and in your instance, we'll have the RMA process as well. I'm going to do a hardware inventory stock order and enter following off of our original example. Everything looks good. Go ahead and order. And now we can see that the request has been submitted, right? Here we can see the stage or a rough workflow of what needs to be done for this particular request. From here, I'm going to drill down directly into my request. I can see some high-level information about it, as well as a catalog task, right? So this is, each task is like a little step in our workflow. From here, the first one is to source the request items. Click source. I'm on the catalog task, source this request. Since I don't have any transferable stock, it will need to be a vendor purchase directly from Lenovo. Submit. A purchase order line has been created successfully. Now we can see in our purchase orders tab, here's the purchase order that we just created. I'm going to drill down into this particular purchase order. Everything looks good. Go ahead and order it. Now we've placed our order. And we're going to do import shipment notification. So this is our advanced shipment notification template. Best practice is to come in and download the template every once in a while, as we do update it periodically. A lot of our customers and their vendors have been leveraging this. So this is for you to send to your vendor and for them to fill out and return to you, and then you just need to upload it. It's the idea behind it isn't something for you to fill out manually. It's for when you're placing your purchase order to send that off to the vendor. And as we have many customers for hardware asset management, a lot of popular vendors out there this will not be a new form for them. Now, I have previously already kind of downloaded and put an example of some particular purchase orders ahead of time, but we're going to go ahead and import it. You can view the import progress here. You can see, okay. Oh, my particular purchase order for some reason is a little bit, is not quite right, but that's all right. We can still see in our example, right? The particular import set rows, what has been created, the state, target record. I do apologize, my example, I guess I've run into a little error with my Excel, but it's all right. We can continue on. Give me one moment as I just pull up a separate example, but in the meantime, feel free to put in any questions you might have in the chat. I'm not currently seeing anything, but please bear with me real quick. All right, I don't see any questions. Okay, so we're going to just set up the original process a little quickly with a different example. It should be the same idea. And we can still show the platform. All right. So now that that has been requested, just a quick review of everything that we previously had done. All right. So here we've landed on this purchase order. We can now receive it after it's been done. You are welcome to receive through the mobile app as well. In addition, you can also receive it right on the desktop or the web browser version. For today, I'm just going to receive it directly from here. You can add asset tags, serial numbers, and so on. It looks like I need to put in one serial number, so just I don't see any comments, but I wanted to make sure. I don't think you are all actually seeing my screen. Your screen is not too. Oh, thank you so much. Yes, I also realized that it should be good now. It's good now. Great, thank you. So, right, I've just received this particular purchase order. I did want to show, and hopefully I had pulled this up ahead of time just because I don't have it set up for my example, but it's something that I think is valuable for everybody to just be aware of. You can find this within the product documentation on ServiceNow's website, but for mobile barcode scanning, there's also the ability to do grouped barcode scanning. There are some directions on configuring the group input for multiple scans, but right, for example, in this use case, there's a lot of different numbers on this particular box. Another thing that I'm thinking of is when customers want to receive a large number of assets at a time, or for example, if you create your own asset tags before, a shipment of 20 laptops arrive, right? And then you print them all on one sheet. That way you can just scan them all at once instead of scanning each laptop individually. Of course, it's whatever best fits your particular business process, but it is a function of the solution that I wanted to point out just in case it's something that you might find valuable. Right. So coming back over to my instance, looks like, wow, today is not my day, but that's all right. We can still take a look and continue on in our example. So now that I've received an asset, right, we can take a look within inventory and we can see, well, things are not showing up. That's all right. Hop back over to my other one. Oh, actually, I know why. Take a look at all. And for our inventory, we can see any kinds of items that might have received and then has now been put into our hardware inventory stock. And also you can definitely look by location as well. So with that being said, on the topic of locations and mobile scanning, I wanted to segue over into hardware audits. So if we take a look at our asset audits, so this is an example of something that I created that I think a lot of our customers need to report on, whether it's internally to the finance department or accounting or externally, right? So in this example, I've pulled all the assets over $1,000. And then from here, I can drill directly down into that particular list of all these assets that fulfill that criteria. So I think earlier there was a question about, pricing information, role-based platform and whatnot. This isn't a good example of you can create a role such as something called auditor, for example, within your platform. And then from there, you can give them access to see this particular dashboard and then being able to click down into that list. So I don't know if anybody has had any challenges previously on gathering information for auditors when hardware asset audits do come up, but this is one way that you can use the power of the platform to decrease some of the friction in that particular process. So now hopping over to asset audits, we're just going to take a look at an example of an asset audit that I had set up previously. An asset audit can be done simultaneously between multiple people in a stockroom or a location and so on, right? So similar to how we were able to receive on the mobile app, you can also scan on the mobile app. In the documentation, it also says that ServiceNow scanning, and actually I can pull this up as well. In case your organization uses Android for Zebra scanning devices, the Android version of ServiceNow mobile apps can be used with most Zebra scanning devices. And then it goes into some details of how to make sure that's working and whatnot. Another thing to note is that you can also do asset audits offline, and then once it's back online, it'll put all the information in. But in this example, we can see 3 categories for the audit results. Anything that's not found, so that means it was expected and not scanned, right? Anything that's new, as well as anything that was expected. If I continue down here, I can see the list of everything that was expected in this particular stockroom, as well as everything that was scanned. Now, if I click into one of these scanned assets and I hop over to the audit tab, right? This is currently blank because my audit is still open. Once the audit is complete, this will automatically populate with the appropriate information for the most recent audit on that particular piece of hardware. Right. Now pause. Any questions? I don't see anything in the chat. All right. With that being said, we're going to go over to our slide deck again. And I believe I have some I wanted to show some of the mobile screenshots. I'm currently on Housekeeping. That's all right. All right. What I want to show next, because a lot of our customers are leveraging both asset management as well as ITSM, service management, right? Any kind of IT tickets and whatnot, along with hardware asset management, right? So I want to tie those two pieces together. If we come over here and we take a look at our incidents, let's see. As part of the platform for reporting and so on, I can go ahead and find everything that's related to the hardware category, because that's what we're working on today. And I can see all the incidents that were related to hardware, right? So maybe you have two separate teams, one that handles hardware assets in particular, and then a separate, IT team that handles incidents. You're able to make this view available to both, or if it's the same person, then they only need one role. But for example, today we're going to take a look at Abel, whose laptop was dropped and the screen is cracked. From here, I can view everything that is related to this incident, go down to my affected CIs, and I can see that this is Abel's current computer, as well as select an asset action. I can choose swap, update or repair, or retire. This is included out of the box, and depending on which asset action you choose, it kicks off a different respective workflow for that option. And then in addition, I can go out and swap that CI, right? So for example, if I knew the particular kind of computer and whatnot, or the location that I was looking for, I just put in an example here, and then I can go ahead and swap that particular CI. If we follow down into this particular configuration item, we can see this asset. Right. And then we can see, okay, where it's located, any kind of contracts if it were to have any, and any kind of allocations if it were to have any. In addition, I can do the same thing for this particular swapped CI. Take a look at this asset record, right? Contracts, allocations, as well as any kind of general information. So the reason that I wanted to point that piece out is because as part of the workflow out of the box, for this swap asset action, any kind of contracts or allocations that was previously tied to the original configuration item, once this particular incident is resolved and the CI has been swapped, the contract and allocations move over to the new swapped CI. Right. Of course, if the teams are separate and I have my IT incident counterpart who's resolving these particular incidents, then I would work up to this point and then maybe pass it back over to them to let them resolve. As well as here, I can put work notes. So work notes are anything that is private only to people with the right role. So it might be people working on this particular incident, and they can see any kind of history that has happened for this particular piece of hardware, as well as this incident. Any questions? All right. If not, I did want to hop back over to the slide deck just because I wanted to make sure to save some time to point out the resources that we have as to help you in your implementation process. Then save some time for questions or anything that we maybe didn't go over today that we wanted to see. Okay, so again, I can send this deck out afterwards. This is the hardware asset management success map. We also regularly update this. So feel free, I linked everything at the end go in there, look at the most recent version. But for the hardware asset management success map, right, we start at success foundations, and this gives you our take on best practice, vision, value, governance, foundational ServiceNow apps, and so on. From there, we move into the implementation stage. And as you can see, kind of in this upper middle section where my mouse is, there's Now Create. So Now Create is also an available resource to you. I'm seeing something in the Q&A. Check real quick. Said, hello, will we get a copy of this deck? The answer is yes. I'll send a copy of this deck out to everybody who attended today. Any other questions? And again, what I'm showing you here, I've just put it into the context of my deck, but you're able to access this through a web link and then always have that to you. So you don't have to refer to the deck. You can always just click on the link. Thank you. You're welcome. And then the next, after implementation is running and optimizing and expanding. Right. And here, we have some roles, demand management, upgrades, assessing value. It's always important, to review what we've done and then realize the value and maybe also see anything that, can be improved upon. And then optimize and expanding. Sometimes we start with the basic catalog, like we were able to see, just to automate that hardware request section. So whether it's people whose laptops are broken, anybody who forgot their laptop at home and might need to borrow one, so a loaner asset request, any kind of onboarding experience, a new asset bundle package for a new sales team member, or offboarding, offboarding in terms of somebody is leaving the company, they need to return their information, we need to update all of that, take off any kind of allocations, and so on. And here are the resources that I was mentioning about. So of course, there's documentation, which I did reference today, as well as our YouTube community, our YouTube Now community, as well as Now support. For each release that we do make Delta videos for each product specifically. So for example, when we went from Quebec to Rome, there was a hardware asset management Rome Delta video, and you can be looking out for the same thing in San Diego. And that's just to make sure that you're up to date with the new things that we've been releasing, and then also know that you're able to leverage those solutions as they're being released. We have our partner finder for anybody who's currently looking for a partner, or wants to work for a partner, or thinking about a different partner in the future. As for support, we have the ITAM Now community, as well as ServiceNow support. Training, there's the Hardware Asset Management Lab. The Hardware Asset Management Lab oftentimes comes as part of Knowledge. So Knowledge is the large customer-focused event that ServiceNow hosts. And we try to create a new lab on the most recent 1 or 2 updates for hardware asset management. If you are interested in being certified, there is the Hardware Asset Management Fundamentals course, either live or on demand, and then the Certified Implementation Specialist exam is available, as well as the process. So this is what I was linking to earlier, Customer success playbooks and Now Create success packs and whatnot. So with that, that brings me to the end. I do apologize for the technical issues that I had earlier, but are there any questions? Anything that I didn't answer today or that I didn't go over? Feel free to ask them now. Can you please share this recording? Yes, I can. Anything else? Okay, if there's nothing else, I will stay on for a few minutes if there's any lingering questions, but feel free to reference servicenow.com/ham to see the product page. Otherwise, if there's any other questions, again, my name is Annie Sue. You can reach out to me with questions that you might have, or reach out to your sales account executive, and they should be able to get in touch with me. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me today. Yeah, I see a question. It says, what impact does hardware asset management have on CMDB discovery? So hardware asset management and CMDB discovery, they mostly align. For example, if you're using the ACCV, so the agent client collector, as that is residing on particular pieces of hardware. So hardware asset management can reside outside of discovery or in conjunction with discovery. Discovery just gives more rich data for particular pieces of hardware that should be more on the configuration item side versus the asset side, but because those two are connected, the more information that there is for a CI or within the CMDB, then you're also able to access and then leverage any of those pieces of information that you might want to use within the hardware asset management workflows. Do you have a particular use case that you're thinking of? So do you have an example of how the CI reclaims section, of termination ticket looks like when tied to ham? Are you talking about termination in terms of offboarding? Yes. An example of how the CI reclaim section of termination looks like when tied to ham. Right. So not the specific example, but we can talk through it. It's very similar to the ITSM or the incident ticket that I showed earlier, because what it's leveraging in the background is actually just the reclaim asset workflow. So whether that reclaim asset is reclaiming a broken one for an employee that's currently working for the company, or if it's for an employee that is terminated or leaving the company, the reclamation asset works the same. I would say the only difference, but this is more based off of lifecycle dates, would be if something is becoming eligible for refresh. So something that your particular company would like to dispose of, it would be reclaiming the asset and then it kicks off the disposal flow versus reclaiming the asset and then it being put back into available stock. Did that make sense? Or is there anything that I can answer better? Okay, thank you. You're welcome. Anything else? Okay. If you would like any extra practice, a lot of what I walked through today is available to you within the hardware asset management lab as part of that resource I was talking about. So, I mean, of course, right, you can also learn as you go, as you're implementing and using the solution just within your instance. But if you would like a kind of a low stress, low impact situation, I highly recommend the hardware asset management lab. It has very detailed screenshots and directions to walk you through all the main hardware asset management workflows. Okay, I'll be on for another minute just to see if there's any other questions trickling in. If not, again, thanks so much everybody today for joining us. Loved your session. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the messages. I don't see anything in, so again, I will follow up with the recording as well as the deck. Again, thanks so much for joining me today, everyone. Have a great one.